this particular video, I'm gonna do something completely different and talk about sex. Woo! Mainly how the concept of virginity is bullshit and you've been lied to. So my entire perception of sex has been skewed and tainted and terrible from a very young age until, in some ways, pretty recently. I was molested as a child by a family friend, and that pretty much set the tone for how I was going to view sex for the next 24 years. It made sex into something shameful and dirty and disgusting, and it completely tainted it for me. At least sooner than society would have. If you're not familiar with my channel, I made an entire YouTube video talking about how being abused as a child made me hate myself. I think... And actually, even the act of filming that video and putting it on YouTube changed me in more profound ways than I could have even imagined. And maybe I'll record a video talking about that someday. But for now, I'm gonna talk to you about virginity, specifically. So I was already in that weird headspace when it came to sex, and I already hated myself because even though I didn't remember exactly what happened to me until much later in life, I already knew that I was perverted, and I already thought that I was perverted and broken and dirty and disgusting. And I knew that it was because I knew things about sex, and that shaped me in a really profound way. And then I ended up in a Masonic youth organization that was fantastic in so many ways, and one of the best things to be in my life even to this day. But we didn't talk about sex. It was something that you just didn't do. All the members of this organization were expected to be virgins, not necessarily overtly told to do so until you got a state office, in which case you would sign a contract stating that you would not have sex during your grand year. It was just sort of vaguely presented to members that you should be pure, whatever that means. And if you were caught having sex, you were kicked out. If you were pregnant, you got kicked out and ostracized. Not the healthiest approach. If what you're looking for is for girls to be happy and healthy and mentally well, not the best approach to sex at all. I grew up in a conservative Christian family, and I was homeschooled. So, the full extent of my sex education was being given a copy of Grey's Anatomy. The book, not the TV show. So, I knew how everything technically worked, but we didn't talk about sex, ever. We just pretended it didn't exist, except to occasionally mention that it was meant for only inside the confines of marriage, and anything outside of marriage was sinful and dirty and gross. So then when I was, I think, 14 or 15 years old, my mom dropped me off at this new youth group that she wanted me to go to, because I had such great luck with other youth groups previously. And this turned out to not just be any other youth group, this was a True Love Waits class. If you're not familiar with True Love Waits, it is basically a class that lots of different churches will put on for its youth, where they brainwash you into believing that sex is shameful and dirty and disgusting unless you're married. That's weird. So they pick and choose all these specific passages in the Bible that present sex as something between one man and one woman. They leave out the bits about sex between a man and all of his concubines. That's a different part of the Bible that we just ignore. So that was like at the forefront in my mind when it came to sex for the next couple of years. That if you didn't wait till you were married, you were less valuable as a person. you were dirty and broken and less whole, and you couldn't give your full self to your spouse, and your sex wasn't going to be as good because you hadn't waited for one another, and that the sex that you have for the first time is going to be the best sex ever because you waited, which is a really sad lie to tell people. I mean, like, your first time might be great, but you are setting people up for failure, guys. Let's face it. Your first time your first time could be good. My first time was pretty good, but definitely was not mind-blowingly awesome, and I'm pretty sure if I'd waited till I was married, it wasn't gonna be any better. It's kind of mean, really. It's kind of mean. Oh God, those poor kids. And really, from what I could tell, true love waits until you're 18 or 19, because that's pretty much how long all of these kids waited to get married for the first time. And let me tell you, 18 and 19-year-olds have no business getting married. You just don't. You don't. Don't be stupid. So, it just gave me really harmful, unhealthy ideas about sex and virginity. Now, virginity, what does that even mean? Because medically, we've proven that it's not really a physical thing. I mean, you know that something's been in there, I guess, depending on your perception of sex, or your definition, depending on your definition of sex. But you can't really prove if someone's a virgin or not based on a medical exam. So then, what is it? Is it a mental state of being? Because what if you have amnesia and you forget that you've ever had sex? Does that wipe the slate clean? Are you a virgin then? What does this concept of purity mean? As far as I can tell, this concept of purity is really just a social construct made by the goddamn patriarchy as a way to control women, because there weren't enough of them already. It's crap. That's what virginity is. It's crap. So I was of the mindset that I was gonna wait until marriage. It was something that I wanted to do, but it wasn't this deeply held conviction that it was something I wanted to do because I wanted to wait. I made that choice out of fear. I made that choice out of being less of a woman for my husband, out of having something that I needed to give to him that I could not give to him because I'd given it to someone else. And what is that thing? Awkwardness? I don't know. So then, when I was 16, I was raped by someone at my college. And that completely shattered me. So not only did I get to deal with the emotional and physical ramifications of being raped at 16, but then on top of it, I also got to hate myself just a little bit more because now I wasn't a virgin. And that was just another thing that I could fail at, and another reason to be dirty and broken and disgusting and less whole. It made me feel less whole. And that was so profoundly damaging to me as a teenager. I can't even fully express how harmful that was to me. And I could have just not had to deal with that if I hadn't been lied to about, I guess, well-meaning people. Virginity isn't really a thing, and sex is what you make it. Sure, it can be this amazing, profound, spiritual experience. It can just be a physical experience. It can be fun, it can be exercise, it can be a spiritual awakening, it can be something that you do for yourself, it can be something that you do for someone else if you so choose. But it's not what I was told that it was. It's not. And if you are being safe and healthy about it, and you are in a good emotional place to do what you're doing, depending on how you view sex, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. It took me so many years to realize that I was no less of a person because I could not give my virginity to my husband, because I was not given that option. It took years of therapy to even get to that point. And for what? Because the church was trying to brainwash me into saving myself for marriage? For what purpose? That's great if you want to wait, but I hope that you're doing it for the right reasons. Because as a Christian, the important thing to me is the teachings of Christ. And he talked about forgiveness and kindness and taking care of the poor. He didn't talk about what a horrible person you are if you want to have sex with people outside of marriage. I don't think your virginity was a priority to Jesus Christ. I think it's so damaging to tell people that their value is based on their hymen, especially when a lot of you don't even know how a hymen works. Let's face it. God, it's not like saran wrap that you puncture. It's flexible, it has a hole in it, it stretches. Like the sheer amount of misinformation in the world about human sexuality, specifically women's sexuality, is mind-boggling. And then you add this on top of it, this stigma from this social construct that doesn't really mean anything. And it is so harmful. Not to mention the fact that studies have proven that abstinence-only education only increases teen pregnancy rates and STDs, so maybe you should do something different. But that's a whole other can of worms right there. I think that there are much better ways that you can dedicate yourself to your spouse. Ways that don't hinge your value as a person on whether or not you've had sex, because you are no less valuable if you've had sex with one person or if you've had sex with 100 people. If you are right with what you've done and what you're doing and yourself, it doesn't matter. You are no less or more of a person because you are or aren't a virgin. And anyone who tells you otherwise is lying. And that's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this one, let me know in the comments below. If you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell next to it so you get updates when I post new videos. Follow me on social media at Katrinaosity. Check out my podcast at mdxpods.com and on its new YouTube channel, which I will link in the description below. So now you can listen to that podcast on YouTube. And if you enjoyed this video, please click that like button. It really helps my videos get seen.